Hi, I'm Ruthie, and this is an episode of the Defiant Business Podcast, your Monday through Friday 10-minute shot of business knowledge. So, today we are going to talk about building your company's credibility. So, why am I bringing this up? Businesses of every size need to focus on credibility. It's just like trusting an individual. Once that person lies to you one time and you find them out, it is just so hard to gain that back. But while we may, now granted, some people are naturally suspicious, but I believe that for the most part, people afford strangers a certain amount of, kind of common sense trust, if you will. Unless they start giving them reasons to believe otherwise. The same is not true for businesses. So me as a business owner, I am scrutinizing other businesses that I may or may not work with more closely than I am somebody who's just passing me in the grocery store. Now, my, certain level of common sense trust there might get, something stolen out of my purse or something. But when you work with a business that turns out to be unethical or just bad at what they do, then you lose a lot of money most of the time. So we just kind of have a more inherent distrust of other businesses. So building your company's credibility helps combat that. Instead of, let's say, neutral trust is zero, and maybe most of the business owners you deal with kind of start from a -5, credibility could bring you up to zero or even put you into the positives a little bit. So you're working from a better position. Credibility also comes into play when you feel like your market is just so saturated. And even if you know what makes you different, you know, we know what makes us different. It can be really hard to stand out. So the marketplace feels crowded sometimes. Credibility can help you stand head and shoulders above everyone else to make it feel more like you don't even have competition. And so that's why credibility is so important. Credibility comes from credit. So let's think about credit. You want to apply for a car or a loan for a car or a loan for a house. If your credit is bad, they don't trust you to make those payments back. So you can't borrow against, your credit reputation, if you will. So no credit, you don't have anything to put forth with the exception of actual money. The problem when you're doing business, though, is that if you don't have any credit, if they don't trust you, if they don't believe in you, then they're just not doing business with you. So it's not even like you can kind of trade it for something, because the highest quality clients, in my experience, aren't interested in, oh, because she doesn't have credibility or she doesn't have a history, if she charges us a really low amount, then we'll still work with her. Most of the clients, my best ones, that's not the case. They don't want to waste any time and not even a little bit of money on someone they can't trust to get the job done. So, building industry credibility, building personal credibility and business credibility, one of the, I don't want to say easy because it's not easy exactly, but one of the ways that you have the most control over it is through content. And that's content in many forms. So it could be podcasting, it could be videos, it could be blogging, it could be presentations and workshops. It comes in a lot of forms, content. So one of the easiest ways, doing it on your owned channels, right? So we have earned media, we've got paid media, we've got shared media, we've got owned media. So using your owned channels, you can publish articles to your website or blog posts to your website. You can start up your own podcast. I use Anchor and it's free. So that's another way to kind of get out there and start building your own content. Also, on the flip side, if you don't want the responsibility of handling a podcast, guest podcasting is an awesome way to get out there and get some original content out there. You can publish intellectual property like white papers or research reports. Or if you want to, borrow on somebody else's credibility, you might publish a joint paper, a joint white paper, or a joint research report. Case studies are a fantastic way to build credibility, especially if you're able to kind of take some data numbers and marry that with the client story, because we love stories. Humans love stories. And when you can add the numbers in there, it kind of gives like a 1-2 punch for the effectiveness of the case study. You take that emotional piece and give it the logic piece and put them together. And that is what can help, people come to terms with their decision to buy from you. Speaking at events, people struggle with speaking, and that's what makes it such a powerful medium. I want you to think back to the last time you were at an event and you sat in the audience and someone came up onto the stage. Think about how you felt about that person. Whenever I see someone up on stage, especially if it's a pretty big gathering, I'm already giving them credibility before they even open their mouth. Now, I mean, if you don't do that, I would be kind of surprised, but I'd just like you to think about the amount of credibility, even if it's only a little bit, the amount of credibility that you give to someone before they even start speaking. So basically, that credibility is theirs to lose. So if they give a really bad presentation, then obviously they would have lost that credibility. But if they give a great presentation, then they're already just building on top of the credibility that you gave them just for being on the stage. So speaking events can really help boost your credibility. And then I mentioned borrowing on someone else's credibility. When I got my first car, my grandfather co-signed on the vehicle with me because I didn't have any credit. Right. So I was able to be a co-signer, on my car because I borrowed on my grandfather's credit. I borrowed his credibility, basically. So, and this is where guesting comes in. So you can guest post, you can do guest interviews on a podcast or a video show. There are all sorts of ways for you to guest and kind of borrow on another person or organization's credibility. So, and speaking is probably the penultimate version of guesting, because even if you're at an organization, let's say, so I go to Mind Grub's outdoor speaker series, and some of those people that, I've never heard of before, some of the companies I've heard of, sometimes it's companies I haven't heard of, they automatically get some credibility because I trust Mind Grub. So that's just, that's the way it is. And so again, that credibility is theirs to lose. So they're kind of getting extra credibility from me because of I associate them with MindGrub. MindGrub is a company here in Baltimore. I'll link to them in the show notes. Don't worry. And then co-producing content again. So if, I guess I'll just continue with MindGrub. Let's say for some reason, defy the status quo, me and MindGrub had a reason to co-author a white paper on a topic that was relevant to both of our audiences. My audience is not as big as MindGrub's, so I would be borrowing on their credibility and gaining credibility because MindGrub saw fit to take me on as a partner in terms of producing this paper or research report or whatever piece of awesome content I'm sure it would be. So credibility is just another word for reputation. You're building your reputation. It's you keep at it and you can build it, but it's easy to destroy. So it's and having higher credibility, having a higher reputation is enough to start that conversation, because they're starting to trust you already, again, before you even open your mouth. So credibility, your reputation arrives to the conversation before you. So that's the importance of building your company's credibility. This has been an episode of the Defiant Business Podcast. Thank you for joining me. Please leave me a comment below if you felt any particular way about something I said here about credibility, reputation, some of the ways of growing your credibility. Leave me a comment wherever you see, listen, or read about this topic, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. See you next time.